Yesterday I did a video on some comments that Charles Barkley said that I felt were coony. Actually, they were coony. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But his colleague that works on TNT with him, hosting the games, anybody who watch basketball, y'all know that you got Kenny Smith, Charles Barkley, and several other cats that used to play in the NBA. They'll, do broadcasting on the NBA games or whatever. And I guess Kenny Smith had an issue with what Charles Barkley said, just like a lot of black folks who know what's going on out here. And I read an article that he had responded back to him in an open letter. Now, I did read the article, and, I understand Kenny Smith don't want to have any, animosity while he's working with Charles Barkley, because I think he could have went a little bit deeper and he could have checked him. But all in all, I do respect Kenny Smith for coming out and, somebody being right there with Charles Barkley, working with him, coming out and saying, you're wrong. And you need to analyze some of the bullshit you say. But I'm going to go ahead and read you guys this article that I read about Kenny Smith responding to Charles Barkley's comments. It says Charles Barkley caused a stir Tuesday with comments to CNN on riots in Ferguson following the death of teenager Michael Brown and the acquittal of the police officer who fired the fatal shots. Barkley, who had previously referred to looters in the town as scumbags, told CNN on the topic of police brutality, "There is a reason why there is racially profiling the way they do." Barkley's comments did not sit well with Kenny Smith. His co-worker on TNT Inside on NBA, in an open letter published at For the Win, Smith disconstructed Barkley's comments and offered his own opinion on what's happening in Ferguson. Excuse me, people, let me scroll down here. The body of work that our black civil rights leaders put in by planning, executing, and activating does not justify you being in the conversation. While your body of work on the court very few compared to, nor should be mentioned when you are giving your expert analysis, again, I respect that you have an opinion on Ferguson, and here's mine. The question must be asked, why is there so much distrust in the police? Why is there so much distrust in the police and the legal system from the African American community? Without manifesting what the effects of slavery still have today, December 1st still marks only 59 years since Rosa Parks sat on the memorial bus. Many of our parents and grandparents have lived through those times and have passed those stories on to all of us. Those civil rights changes were at one time the law. They were not illegal. So, that's what Kenny Smith had to say. And, basically he just he disagreed with Charles Barkley, but he did it in a way where he could still, go to work and it ain't no problems with this guy or whatever. Me, I don't give a damn. I work with cats, all the time. I'm in, board meetings, or, we're talking on certain projects or how we're going to market this artist out, etc., etc. And if I hear another brother or sister say something that is cool or tries to market something out, I feel like that is very negative and stereotypic towards the black community, I'm going to speak up. And I'm going to speak up in a public forum. But I do understand that, Kenny Smith, didn't want to cause too much of a uproar between him and Charles Barkley. He didn't want to destroy him in a public forum, especially, being that Charles Barkley deserves it. But, we all go about handling things different, I'm respectful when I have something to say, but also I'm not going to hold my tongue. That's just how I am. I'm going to speak up, and if I feel like something is wrong, I'm going to call you out on it. But, I think he could have went a little deep, and, I would love for one of these cats to, invite me on CNN or one of these sports shows or whatever, because I'll tear that motherfucker down. I'll say exactly what needs to be said and won't feel no shame about it. But, Charles Barkley, is a coon. Anybody with common sense and has listen to this guy and watched him and how he reacts to certain issues within the black community, we all know Charles Barkley's a sample. He's a coon. And, we just found out that the brother that was choked out by the police in New York, there was no prosecution against the cops that murdered that man. And you better believe that Charles Barkley, cooning ass, will come out and say some Sambo type of statement about the death of that man. But that's all I gotta say. I give Kenny Smith some respect for coming out and actually, combating what he said, because you got a lot of people out here that are scared to talk about things with their colleague, or they're scared to do it, in a public forum, in fear of, them losing their job, or them not tap dancing for the white man, and, not reaping the benefits of doing the type of job that they do. But I want to see how this is going to play out. Y'all watch out.